I know why you're here, and I can help you. I know how to stop Joe, but to do that, you'll need to get to his vault inside of the bank.
To hear more about some of the key
I'll get you the
moments of
house key,
history
get
here
you
at Blair
some
Castle,
flowers.
I met up with Sarah Troughton in the private library. What is, of course, so beautiful about Blair Castle is not just the house itself, it's a beautiful castle, but where it is. This atmosphere of the highlands, the landscape. I mean, it's idyllic. It's so beautiful.
Well, yeah. I mean, the first Crystal Castle was built in 1269. So it's a long time ago. And it was built when it was built because of the landscape. Because this is where
Thank you so much for the flowers. Here, that's Joe's house.
becomes
The
narrower.
vault key is in his kitchen,
As
but
it
I'm pretty
becomes
sure the kitchen
Glengarry,
door is
Gary
locked.
being the river.
Maybe try to find a way to
And
unlock
so,
it.
in defensive terms, whoever controlled this spot controlled the gateway to the Highlands. It's played a major part in history. It's sighting over the years. Bonnie Prince Charlie's army on his retreat north to Culloden was stationed here for a while. The Duke absented himself as he was a Hanoverian.
Right,
But his brothers were Jacobites, so there's a whole history there of the divided family, which is very typical.
Yes.
When Queen Victoria visited the Highlands, which I think the first time she came up was in 1842, she absolutely fell in love with the Highlands, which really started Dunkeld, which is the sort of southern end of the estate. Then, when she was feeling a bit weak after her second birth of her second child, she decided to ask the Duke and Duchess if she could take over their house. And they had a very, very private visit here, which was exactly what she wanted. But the Duchess and Queen Victoria became very good friends and remained very close for the rest of her life. The Duchess was the mistress of the bedchamber, which was the sort of highest point in her household.
Duchess Anne is one of a long line of impressive women at Blair Castle. As a girl growing up here, Sarah remembers meeting Kitty, the 8th Duchess, in her apartment.
I can remember her. I was probably about 12 when she died.
Okay.
And I remember her as a charming old lady who could play the piano and would play anything I asked her to play on it. But before that, she'd been a very formidable lady. When she married the Duke, she was training to be a concert pianist and would have been a concert pianist. And she trained in Germany, spoke German fluently.
So roughly what period are we at right now?
Well, they married in 1899.
Right.
So she would have been training in the very end of the 19th century.
Oh my goodness.
Because she married, he was the Marquis of Tully-Barden then, but he was going to be the Duke. She gave up her career as a concert pianist and supported him.
I'm testing out the Poise Ultra Thin Pad. Ever since the baby, I leak when I sneeze, and I have allergies, so I sneeze a lot. These pads are really absorbent and so thin, I barely notice I'm wearing them. Sneeze test? Poise Ultra Thin Pads. Try Poise Ultra Thins.
I'm out here telling people about the new Experian Insurance Marketplace. Do you enjoy shopping for car insurance?
It's awful.
Experian can help. Experian does the shopping to find you a great policy.
That's really good news.
And they'll alert you if they find a better rate later on.
Sign me up.
Go to Experian.com/car.
And actually never had any children, I think. She was able to have children, which was a sadness.
Right.
Give me the charger,
but
please.
She made the most of her time, and she took up all sorts of good causes, and then became quite political. And she became the first female MP in Scotland. And then she became the first ever female Minister of State. She was Minister of State of Education. And so she had a very, very sort of good political career. But when, in the 30s, when Hitler was first coming to power, she read, much earlier than most British people, she read his book Mein Kampf in German because she was so fluent in German. It was just as easy for her to read it in German. And she realised how very, very dangerous the Nazis were at that stage. So when Chamberlain went through appeasement and all that, she gave up Conservative whip. Along with actually Winston Churchill. But then Winston Churchill went back to the Conservative side, and she didn't.
Yes.
So So when the next election came along, she had to stand as an independent.
And then she didn't.
And she didn't get a seat. I mean,
Right.
she very, very nearly retained it. She was very highly intelligent lady, and a very determined lady. She was petite. She was very small, and she took no trucks.
Small but mighty. Small but mighty.
Small but mighty.
And in the meantime, she's married to the 8th Duke. Is that right?
Yes. I mean, he was a very successful soldier up until towards the end of the First World War, when his father died and he actually became the Duke.
Right.
He then returned to Blair, and I think his primary concern was the estate. He was very well liked. He was obviously a very nice man. He wasn't a very efficient estate manager. The
Okay.
estate was in a lot of debt when he inherited it, and every attempt he made to get it out of debt was a failure, basically.
Right. Right. Oh dear.
And
Great
so
job.
in the
I think
30s,
he should be inside of the security office,
Right.
but I'm not too sure
he was
where.
rescued by
I never
my
went there.
great-grandmother, so
The
it was
security
that he
guards
was never
didn't let me in
actually
before.
there bankruptcy.
Good luck.
Oh my goodness.
So that was lucky.
The 20th century was a century of challenge and uncertainty for Blair Castle. But it was the women of the family who led the way in ensuring the survival of the castle and estate for the future.
The pioneer was really my great-grandmother. She insisted that it was her company that ran the place, and they got the house ready to open to the public,
Oh
which
my
they did in
goodness.
1936.
In 1936.
Yes, it
so
was one of the very first ones to open.
Every once in a while, a snack comes along that changes everything. With so many choices on Booking.com, there are so many Tina Feys I could be. So I hired body doubles.
The 8th Duchess, Kitty, lived here on this floor, and at the far end of the castle, the 9th Duke, who was a bachelor, her brother-in-law, lived, and then in what's known as the South End,
let me out of
my
here.
family lived.
Give me
Okay,
a shovel and
mother
I'll tell you a
and my
joke.
half-brother.
Right.
A sort of odd menage a trois. You never knew at any mealtime when I was a child who might or might not turn up for it.
Thank you
How
so
brilliant.
much.
Yeah.
Are you
But
ready
anyway,
for my joke?
They all got along, and my mother ran the show.
What did the
She
sheriff
was
say
the
to
one
the
who
jokester?
was in charge.
Right.
You're under
But she was
arrest.
she was a very, very practical
I have
businesswoman,
access
so
to a locked
she got
door
things sorted
upstairs.
out.
Right.
Here, I opened
Looking
it
to
for
the
you.
future, I'm always
think
really
one of the books
interested
you're looking
as a
for is
fellow
up there.
historic house owner. We're here as the custodians in order to make sure that these places survive for those future generations. And is that something, Sarah, that you do think about?
Yes, it is. I think I put it into two categories. There's one is the history, the castle, the artifacts, all that sort of thing that has to be preserved at full cost. But, it takes money to keep the roof on.
Yes.
So obviously, I'm very pleased to have a lot of visitors. But then there's the other side of the business, which is much more business orientated, and you make sure that that's going to make enough money to keep the infrastructure of the place going, to provide decent jobs for people, as well as supporting the castle. I never think, shall we do the roof or shall we build a farm building?
Right.
The farm building has to pay for the farm building.
Right.
The roof has to be done however you get the money, even if you take it off, another successful part of the
So
business.
true.
And I mean, there's a big reward too in seeing happy visitors and people. I often walk through the rooms just as if I was the tourist.
Yes.
To visit her sort of look. And I really get quite a kick actually out of when I hear somebody discuss how lovely something is,
Yes.
or how well displayed it is, or you get nice feedback.
You do. Well, I'm a happy visitor. What a wonderful, special place, but I'm a very happy visitor here, so thank
Good.
you.
Good. Well, I'm glad.
The attics at Blair Castle are off limits to visitors, but Bertie kindly agreed to show me the treasure trove of family history stored in the Warren of Rooms. Absolute heaven for me.
So Julie, this is a section of the attics. There's probably over 60 rooms
What?
of attics. Of attics.
What's amazing about these attics when you go to these historic houses, now this is history. Look at this.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
I'm testing out the Poise Ultra Thin Pads. Thanks to my son, sometimes I laugh so hard I leak a little. But these pads are ultra thin and absorb.
We're now on the top third section of the attic. And these are the furniture rooms. This looks like chaos, but I assure you,
It
is.
doesn't. It doesn't look like chaos.
We know what's going on
It's
in
like
here.
going into an antique furniture.
You
Yeah,
really
exactly.
forget the trick I am. Mother like that.
Brilliant, Bertie.
You'll love these bits around here.
I will not let you escape this
So
place.
Julie, this room is quite good at giving you a picture of how the castle sort of operated in the 19th century.
Right.
So this is how all the rooms were built, through these gas-fired lights and bulbs.
These ones as well?
Yeah, these are all the ones.
They're beautiful.
They're really cool. When we built a power station, and then in 1951 the castle went on to mains electricity.
Right, mains
So
electricity.
it's
Right.
decommissioned there. So this was probably the Victorian era.
Yes.
This is exactly how everything had been made.
Right. And I mean, it's just interesting to see how, of course, right here, just in this room, you can actually visualize how the castle has evolved to modern day electricity and looking what it was, during the Victorian era and where we are today.